Good morning. Oh, I suddenly forgot I was nearly live. It's been too long, Charlotte.
Oh gosh, got alarms going already. I know. Welcome back.
Well, I know. Thank you very much. Welcome everybody. Gosh, computer's doing all its little alerts and everything, but remember what to do on LinkedIn Live and StreamYards. Good morning. Welcome to Be Career Confident. This is our monthly session where Charlotte and I, as co-founders of Be Career Confident, look at a relevant topic and decide to try and share our wisdom. And for those of you that can join us live, interact with the chat, ask us questions, and have a little bit of a healthy debate and share some wisdom over the next 30 minutes to 45 minutes, depending on how engrossed we get, really. Good morning, Charlotte.
Good morning. Are you all right?
I am. It's sunny. I'm ready for, I think, 4-day weekend. And morning, Tracy. Tracy's online, so that's lovely. For those who don't know, Be Career Confident, Charlotte and I set Be Career Confident up officially coming up 3 years ago, but with the support of a lot of associates now who are specialists in career coaching, leadership training, recruitment, and Be Career Confident is there as a platform for us to help you as individuals, support your own careers, and also as businesses to get that career journey going really effectively through your business. And we break it down into quarters. So we've evolved over the past 3 years, and we used to plan our sessions a year in advance, and then the market changed so much that we thought, well, that's not working. But we do like a bit of a plan, so we now break it down into a quarter. First quarter was all about career planning. And second quarter we are now into, which I can't believe, we're talking about positioning. So that's about how we position ourselves as individuals and also how we position our career opportunities within our organisation. So today we're going to sort of start, and we like to pause quite a bit within career planning. And today was a time to, before we move straight into talking about positioning, is to stop and look at discovery and rediscovery. Now, while Charlotte and I are talking this through, so please use the chat on LinkedIn to ask us any questions, and also just make any comments. That would be absolutely great. But where we start, Charlotte, discovery and rediscovery. So before we kick into all of this, what do we mean? What does it mean to you when we talk about rediscovering ourselves and original discovery?
I think, it's an ongoing process, isn't it? We find ourselves, we lose ourselves, we re-find ourselves, we lose ourselves, we re-find ourselves. So I can't believe we're 3 minutes in and I'm already talking about circles. But it's a continuous process of working out who we are, working out our direction, working out what our aims are, what our goals are, what our aspirations are. And we lose that, don't we? Because we get so busy in the day-to-day. We get busy in the white noise of school runs and this and going to work and meetings and projects and deadlines and everything, and then we suddenly feel that we're not in the right job. It's like, okay, like you said, we need to step back. We need to force a pause to rediscover what's important, what matters, where do we want to go for the next bit. And we're talking about positioning here. We can't plan this if we don't have the time to plan, because we don't all go to big meetings and big proposals and big tenders without the planning or without a strategy, and we allow plenty of time to do that. Quite often you'll see people block out days in their diary to do that, but we don't tend to do it for ourselves, do we?
No.
It's another point of the weekend.
I think sometimes there can be a natural point where you might stop. So the end of the annual year, so Christmas can be a big thing, can't it? Okay, you reflect, You might not write your New Year's resolutions anymore, but you can stop and think, okay, so what do I want the year ahead to look like? So I think that can be a natural one. I think the end of the financial year can sometimes be a natural one as well, depending on what job you're in. If you're focused on budgets and there's new targets to achieve, from a company point of view, that can be a point of refocusing and rediscovery. And also as an individual, when you suddenly get your targets for the year ahead. So depending on where your financial year might be. So I think there's a couple there that could naturally happen via a set of circumstances. But I think what's really important is to be able to acknowledge when you should be stopping, and when you do need to pause, and to think, is this right for me as an individual? And also what we're trying to achieve within our organisation, is this still working?
I think actually, just to add to your comment there about the natural points, I think there are natural stages in life where we discover and rediscover, whether that's GCSE options, whether that's A-level options, whether that's university or not, whether that's friendships, whether that's pre or post family. You know, there are natural phases in life which force that. But I agree with you. It's for this. It's for the dated. It's for the once we're in the routine of, and in that mid to late career, where we don't we lose that discovery, don't we?
It's not forced, is it? Yeah, you're right. It's not forced. You'll have those stages, especially in education, the way you're always thinking about what next. So yeah, it can get a little bit woolly.
Absolutely. So what do you think is the catalyst then? How do we, what's the catalyst for needing to do it if we're in work? If we're in our career, if we're going, what's the bit that means that it forced, what would force the refocus and rediscovery?
I think there's two measurables here. I think there is something that you can physically measure, that something might be an event that's happened. So take it in both sections. You know, we're talking about what makes us refocus our own career, or what's happening within our teams or our organisations. So there could be a measurable event that happens. Something's not. So if we look at it in a business sense, something's not being delivered. The budget isn't being achieved. We're not meeting our service levels. We've put an advert out. We're not getting the response that we used to for that advertisement. In our own careers, you've missed a deadline. You've not achieved something. So I think there is something where you can sit, either if it's in your career, you're having the one-to-one or the appraisal, or you're giving you're leading the appraisal. So I think that's a measurable. I think that the one where we miss is the feeling element. So things that maybe creep up on us. So this ongoing feeling, and if we think about it as an individual, the classic one is that Monday morning feeling. So that Monday morning feeling of I don't want to go to work.
Yeah,
we've all had them. Yeah. But is it just I've just had a really great weekend, and actually I just want a little bit of work. I just prefer to be outside or doing whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Or is it more of a physical feeling of every Monday, and then it's creeping into Sunday night?
Yeah.
Or Sundays, that it's starting to have an impact at that point. And as a leader within your organisation, you're coming into the business and you're working with your teams, and just something doesn't feel right. The energy isn't there anymore. There isn't as much laughter in the office that there might have been before. But it creeps up on you, and I think that's the challenge. And I do think that's where, in a business sense, where check-ins of one-to-ones and appraisals can keep you a little bit on track, but you can still miss something if it's not that tangible. I can measure this isn't going well now because of this, but it's more of the feeling. Does that make sense? I tend to waffle, so that was just my waffling in my head.
I know, and I was just thinking as you're talking, there's such a synergy, isn't there, with the mental health, and when this discussion is not about mental health, but that's what I'm hearing, is that when something doesn't feel right, there is something not right.
Yeah.
And but if we're busy at work and busy in our job, busy in life, we sometimes don't take the time to allow ourselves to understand that something's not right.
No, and I think this is where, you always say this, of just that pause, and we've learned a lot from each other over the years, and it's certainly the thing that I've learned from you, is just being able to pause and just give yourself that time. And I say this to a lot of people now, self-care is not selfish.
No.
But we're caught up in delivering whatever we need to do within our organisations, delivering what we need to do for ourselves, trying to, we're on this wheel, aren't we? And it's been a very changing environment over the past 3 years, with so many things of how we've all reevaluated. But I do think it's about, you're quite right on that, mental well-being, of just checking in and just thinking, okay, I don't feel quite right, let me give myself some time. And I'm not talking a day, but just okay. So for me, it's always get out and go for a walk, go and get some fresh air, because that just clears me, gives me time to think. And that doesn't need to be a big walk. That sometimes it's just, I'm just going to stand in the garden.
Yeah, exactly. Just having the breather. I think what's the catalyst for this for me is losing a sense of purpose. We go into the careers we love, we take jobs, we run businesses because of that drive. The catalyst is if you can't remember why you're doing it, for me.
Yeah, that's a good question to ask yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
And do you look back then, Charlotte? Do you then look back and say, so why did I start doing this? So what was my purpose originally? And is it still the same today?
We also talk a lot about having a really strong anchor. And if you know what your anchor is, which could be your purpose, then it gives you something to go back to when you're feeling a bit lost or a bit unsure of what you're doing, because you can go back to that and say, right, I remember I'm doing this because, the work I do adds a huge amount of value, and it's impactful, and that's important to me. Right. So, and I can still see that I'm having an impact. Great. Because that changes your mindset on something. It helps with that with the rediscovery. Because again, I think going back to the question of what is discovery and rediscovery, sometimes it's just reminding yourself who you are, as well as rediscovering. Again, we associate it with change, don't we? We associate discovery is one thing and we find out, and then rediscovery is maybe finding something new, but it could just be refreshing who we are and refreshing where we're at. Rather
than the same in the business world as well. Yeah. What as a team, what are we doing, and as an organisation, what do we stand for? Because everything evolves, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So what do you think, so if you go back to your comment about, as businesses, checking in with employees, what do you think would be the signs that somebody, maybe, let's talk about it from a business point quickly. What would be the signs of somebody needing some help to rediscover who they were and rediscover their position within the business?
I'm going to put that up as how do we recognise when something is off balance, because I think that's important.
It is being off balance. How do we recognise in our team, in our people, in ourselves that something's off balance?
Classic things within a team for me is somebody that's always been quite a big contributor. And I don't mean a big voice. They can be a big voice, but just somebody who, somebody used to say to me, that's that nugget of wisdom that's in the room. And when they stop sharing or engaging, I think that's a telltale sign. If you're in a larger team, somebody that used to always be on camera, if you're remote working, and now is switching their cameras off, big. They're sort of some physical things. I think they're the things to watch for me, because that's about the person then, isn't it? Because results are results. You've got your measurables. You know what somebody needs to be delivering. So that's the tangible bit of, well, the numbers are down, or whatever should be being delivered isn't physically being delivered. So you've got that. But what if somebody is still delivering?
I'd say
to notice.
Yeah, for me, one of the big ones, it's funny, is flexibility.
Okay.
Because if we all recognise it within our own teams, within who we've been. When things are happy and positive, and we're enjoying our work and enjoying what we do, anything's possible, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then when we feel it, that it's maybe clashing with our values, or clashing with our work, what we want to do, working hours, or clashing with the style of work we want to do, or something's not right ourselves, we're a bit negative, aren't we?
Do you know what? That's
we're not more willing. We're less willing to stay a bit later, or we're less willing to be. And I think, like you said, somebody who's had a loud voice, but we're less willing to engage.
Yeah.
We're less willing to find a solution, and maybe we're just a bit.
Yeah. You can always tell when I get excited about when you say something, because I sit up and I lean forward and realise that. There you go. When somebody's off balance, they don't. Or they're more thinking about the situation. Do you know what? That is so true, and it is about the balance, isn't it? So when everything's in balance, you are more likely to say, and I definitely do this. That's not a problem. Yeah, I'll do that. Personal and professional.
Yeah.
But when you're a bit tired and you just, well, let's put it this way, you find the word no, don't you?
So Ruth and I had some interesting communication this week. Ruth and I have known each other for many, many, many years. We had some really funny communication this week with both of us being a bit directive with our communication speak, because we're both up against it and probably just going, it's week before Easter. And we had to laugh because it was one was going like this, the other one's going like this, and the other one's going like this, and the other one's going like this. And I just wrote back saying, no, that's not what you said. And we rang and we laughed. But it's funny, isn't it? But we catch, and that's the value of relationships, is you want to work with people and surround yourself with people who will pick you up for that. And to say what's going on.
Yeah.
Because if they don't, we can't help ourselves rediscover what's important and re-anchor us.
Yeah.
But our teams, we can't help them rediscover and re-anchor and refresh if we're not paying attention to that. That's quite, I think that's a really interesting one. But okay, so Ruth, we've identified. We're going to make a change. How do we then move? How do we transition forward from this? How do we transition from saying something's not right? What do I do?
I come against this. I come at this from quite a simplified way. That if I suddenly think, this just doesn't feel right, I'm a pen and paper girl. I will literally just get a line down a piece of paper and go, okay, either what's working well, what's still making me smile, what's good on the left-hand side, so what's working well, and on the right-hand side, it'd be even better if. And they're my two things. And again, we learn this forever, people share this over our years. I, learned this probably about 5 years ago, and somebody shared it with me. I was like, that doesn't overcomplicate it. That for me just it grounds me, and I can sit there and say, what's working well, even better if. And then you've got a visual for me of, what's working well, nice long list, even better if, a couple of things just to tick off, or what's working well, quite a short list. And then on the right hand side, okay, what even better if, okay, what would make me happy? What am I visualizing myself that would make me smile again? And that again is a thing. And for me, I think I'm quite I get led by expression, and I'm more feeling and emotion than hard evidence of stuff. I will be led by my gut, and I embrace that. So for me, it's okay, what's making me smile?
Yeah.
And if I have a physical reaction of thinking about something and think, yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
I can pull back on, when you were saying about your anchor.
Yeah.
Pull back on, okay, when did it feel really, really good?
Yeah. When
was that bit of euphoria? We're not going for euphoria every single day, but what did that feel like, and what was the mix at that point? So why was it so good?
It's funny, actually. It is a coaching technique that in multiple what's the word I want? Industries. So from a careers coaching point of view, quite often, we visualize it. Banks and rivers, right? What are we doing now? What skills do we want to take forward? How do we transfer them? We'll be talking later in Q2, won't we, about actually this transition into something new and repositioning ourselves if we're changing careers and changing jobs. So we'll move into those in the later sessions of Q2. But if you talk about well-being coaching, quite often they'd say, right, visualize what good felt like, what was happening, what were you feeling, what were you doing, what could you smell? It becomes quite sensory. And I agree with you, on that list. I think it's really good because I think it works for practical and the logical minded and the touchy feelies. Because I think seeing that, and I love that, Ruth. And I've learned that from you, that what's working really well. I like it because suddenly you're saying, rather than writing a list of here are all the things I don't like about work, which is what so many people defaulted to write. This is what I hate about work, and this is what I like. And guess what? If you go into it with a negative mindset, your list of stuff you hate is going to be longer than the list of stuff you love, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if we write on a piece of paper, this is what I enjoy and this is working well.
And start with that.
Positive. And then we're adding more positive to say what we want to learn going forward. And I think from a discovery, from a rediscovery, from a refreshing, that will make you feel refreshed even before you've gone, right, it's made me realise I need a new job. Or it's made me realise I actually love already it's going to help with that rediscovery and that refreshing, isn't it?
And it's so transferable into a business environment, within a business or a team. What's working well? Start with that. What's working well today, this month? What's going well?
Yeah.
Even better if.
Yeah.
What is it?
Are you asking me? Don't know.
No. The question. No. Don't worry. We're not having a coaching session. You're all right.
That's very on the spot.
I just think it's very powerful. It's
I do.
Powerful, and it's not. And sometimes you might not like what you come up with,
Mm.
then at least there's your starting point.
Mm.
And then that's how you then can start to transition, because you've then got whatever that looks like on that list of even better if. Okay, so let's bring this to life in two ways. So you could be in a business orientated, let's go very, very simple. What's working well? Team's in a really good place.
Mm.
So we've got a great team. Even better if we were delivering more.
Mm.
Okay, so what does that then mean? How can we deliver more? Then you're drawing back to, well, is it about processes within the business? Is it about having more people?
Mm.
How do we then go out and get different people? Or it'd be even better if we've got a few more graduates coming through. Okay, so there's your starting point. Well, have we got the links with the universities? Have we kept that up? Have we built our alumni? Then you're following your process through within your own well-being. What's working well? Okay, so I really like the job I'm actually doing.
Mm.
It'd be even better if I liked the people I worked with better. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
So the job's right, but the people I'm working with aren't. So actually, well, there's your starting point. So you already know the actual job you're doing is great. It's just the environment. So you can then address that. Whereas it could be, do you know what? I love going to work. It gives me a social, it gives me my community, but I'm a bit bored of the job now. Well, maybe then that's a conversation to have with
With
the
work.
manager to say, I really love working here, but I'm just getting a bit bored.
Yeah.
And to have that conversation, to think
Yeah.
about, well, actually, I'd like to. So, and then before you go and have that conversation, it could be, oh, okay, well, this is the rediscovery bit. What else do I want to do? So rather than going and saying, I'm a bit bored, have a think about what else within the organisation you might want to get involved in. And is there an option to do that? So that would be how I would move it. I would see using what's working well, even better if, take those even better ifs, and then move that forward into that really going forward.
And I think so. We often, Ruth and I, and all of our BCC team get asked by senior people within businesses, maybe technically senior, who want just go, I'm just not sure if I want to do this anymore. And it's like, for 30 years you've been a finance director, or for 20 years you've been an engineer, and they go, I'm just not sure I want to be doing this. And that skill, that little activity can still help, because it can say, actually, what is it about what you're doing that you love? Because it could be that what you're loving is mentoring the juniors and bringing the juniors on. That's the bit of your work that you like. Or it could be that what you love, and you love about your work is the technical skill, and you go, but what would be better is if I did less people management. It just allows you, rather than, and this is not taken away from Ruth, rather than it all being about what I feel and what I feel, because that's a really dangerous place, because that can change. Some days we can love it because the sun's shining. Ruth, look at the difference of Ruth and I this morning. Ruth's been on the beach with beautiful sunshine this morning. I have literally been in my galoshes and in my full weatherproof. I had to put my thermals on and my polar neck, even though it's quite warm, because I got so cold. That changes how we feel about work. That changes how we feel in ourselves. So I think if we can take out a little bit of that feeling and go back to that actual practical step of, what am I doing? How can I improve on this? I think that will, that helps. And just like, what I think is really clever about that is, okay, so we've talked about what we mean by discovery and rediscovery, and we've talked about what might be the catalyst for needing that and how we recognise that something needs to change. And then we're talking about how do we transition forward. We have to force it on ourselves. So we said before, education helps a lot force this change and rediscovery, but then we get to a period where it's not enforced on us. And Ruth and I are saying, how do we move forward? We have to force that on ourselves by taking a breath, taking a step back, and spending the time to think about it, so that we can then say, okay, let's make this change. let's move this conversation forward. So we've identified it. So in the rest of the series, obviously we've got, this is session 1 of Q2. We are going to be talking about career positioning again, Mark 2, which was transition. So the date for that is the 4th of May. And then on the 1st of June, we're going to be actually talking about how we go to market. So once we've actually then identified where we are, identified who we want to be, whether that's a business or whether that's an individual, how do we then go to market? So we really hope that you'll be part of the series going forward. And then at the end of the quarter, as per every time, we will have 2 workshops, one for individuals and one for business. On the 14th of June, we're going to be looking at an actual CV workshop, so practical steps to help those of you who are looking to rediscover, or you have gone through that period, or you're looking to transition. We can talk to you about that. And then on the 6th of July, we will be focusing for businesses on advert writing. So how do we position our opportunities correctly and in the right places for our potential new team members? So loads going on, Ruth, as ever, isn't there?
No. It's scary when you sort of say 6th of July. I'm like, it's going to fly by.
Okay.
It's going to fly by. But I think it's important. I think, we can all get caught up in the day-to-day, can't we? So I think it's just important. It is important. And we see the benefit of it when people stop and reflect. And just on those, we've all, depending on how long you've been in your career, that CV piece, there might be stuff on your CV that just isn't relevant anymore. There's things that you've forgotten.
Exactly.
And then from a business point of view, we sometimes forget how great the business is and what we've achieved, and we haven't been talking about it.
Yeah.
So excited about the workshops.
Yeah, loads going on. And for those of you who've been on this and who are feeling like there needs to be a change, there's nothing that Ruth and I enjoy more as conversations with people who've recognised a change needs to happen. So please reach out to us, connect with us on LinkedIn, email us at hello@becareerconfident.com, and obviously we will be back in a month for our next session. Yeah.
Have a lovely Easter.
Have a lovely Easter, Ruth.
Thanks for everybody who joined, and we will see you live. It'll be another bank holiday weekend because obviously it's just bank holidays, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we'll see everybody.
Great
Have
stuff.
a lovely Easter. Thanks for joining, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.